We're going to talk about the welterweight title fight towards the end between Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal, strawweight title fight between Weili Zhang and Rose Namajunas, and flyweight title fight between Valentina Shevchenko and Jessica Andrade, giving you all the value bets that you want and need. But the big question is, fellas, we'll start with you, Ryan. Is there anything else taking your fancy outside of the three title fights?
Yeah, so I quite like Connelly in the Sabatini versus Connelly. I said that before. Connelly fight. I keep calling him Connelly for some reason. But yeah, Sabatini is 13-3. He's making his debut in the UFC. He's very stocky. He's very powerful for the weight class. He's got really strong grappling. He's got 9 submissions on his record. So out of 13 wins, that's a pretty high percentage. He looks to have pretty decent striking as well. Like in his last fight, I could see that, he developed some nice kicks. And he seems to have some natural power. Although because of his build, because he's quite he's got quite broad shoulders, he tends to wing punches more than throw nice straight shots. But he's really good at taking the back. And I can kind of see why he's being given a lot of respect coming into the UFC, because, he's making his debut, but he's sub 1.5, which, says that, people respect his game a lot. But he's fighting Tristan Connelly, who you might remember fighting Michel Pereira a few years ago. I think that was Pereira's debut. He came in and he fought on short notice, and he also fought up, 2 weight classes. He fought at 170, and this fight's at 145. And he actually beat Michel Pereira. I don't know if you remember that fight, but Pereira came out doing his kind of usual backflips and kind of theatrical stuff and basically gassed himself out. And Connelly's just a really well-rounded, tenacious fighter. He just kind of stayed in the game, stayed in Pereira's face, and started putting it on him. And it just showed that he's a very, very well-rounded fighter in that fight. He's got really good grappling. He's got good striking and output. And he showed that he's got a ton of heart in that fight as well, because he was physically, outmatched quite a lot in that fight, really. Like Michel Pereira is no joke, and he had a huge reach advantage, a huge size advantage. So I just think that he's a little bit too big in this fight. He's 2.87, which I took with Bet365 this morning. And I think Sabatini is a fast starter, and he does get a lot of first-round finishes. But if Connelly is able to get through the first round and implement his game, then I think he's got a really good shot at taking the second and third round. So, I mean, I've took him straight away, but you could even, if you're going to be watching it, bet him in play after the first round, because it's probably more likely that Sabatini does take the first round.
Yeah. All right. Good call there. Yeah. As you can see on the screen, you can still get, you can still get Connelly at 2.87 on Bet365 as we speak. Would you go much lower than that, mate? Because you get 2.8 at Unibet and Betfred and a few others, maybe.
Yeah, I'd go to 2.75, and like I say, if that price does go, maybe wait and take it in play. Look how the first round goes, because I think Sabatini is quite explosive and heavily muscled guy for that weight class, and I think you might get a better price after the first round. So.
Yeah, Bet365 a little bit of an outlier there too. So looks good, mate. And you've got another one here, Jeffrey Molina versus someone's name that I'm not going to bother pronouncing.
Yes, I think it's Kaileng Aori, and he's got a cool nickname as well. They call him the Mongolian Murderer, which I thought was
that is gold.
That's up there, isn't it, with the best nicknames in the UFC. So yeah, I like Molina. He's young. He's only 24. He's 8-2, but he fights out of James Krause's camp. But he fights really intelligently. With he's very measured on his feet. You can tell that he's quite calm. And he switches stances really nicely. He can fight from both unorthodox and southpaw. He's got a really good kicking game as well. And he just looks like a really good prospect to me. Very solid everywhere. From what I've seen, he's able to grapple as well. And coming out of that camp, he's going to be proficient everywhere. So, he's got a really decent kicking game. His movement's really good as well. He steps back and throws a really nice left hand or right hand. He's able to strike moving back. And I think that could be quite big, because although Kaileng Aori, I've not seen his most recent fights, because like I was saying earlier to you guys, with these Chinese fighters, it can be hard to track them down. But I saw a fight from last year, which was only about 3 fights ago, and the guy does look like a kind of physical specimen. Is very strong, but the level of competition that he's been fighting hasn't been great. And although he does look physically very gifted, he's a little bit wild, and technically looks a step behind Molina to me. Like when he throws his shots, he doesn't feint very well. It's just like he just comes forward and just kind of throws like left, right, left, right, left, right, or right, right, right. He's just very aggressive, but not very technical. And then also when he was shooting for takedowns as well, he wasn't really setting them up. It was either, he wasn't really blending his game that well together. He was taking shots from quite far out. So, I mean, there is a chance that he is just too strong for Molina and he can implement his grappling, and that might be a path to win for him. But I just kind of like the camp that Molina's coming out. I like the fact that Molina's fought, he's fought at Dana White's Contender Series, but he's fought almost in the UFC. And this is going to be Aori's kind of big step up, where he's been fighting lower level competition in China. So I think it's worth a stab. I've backed him at 1.93, which is pretty available, I think, everywhere. So
yeah, a lot of bookies here at 1.91. Jesus Christ. Something's wrong with my throat. 1.91, sorry, for Molina at a lot of books here that I can see. Maybe the exchanges are starting to drop Betfair at 1.83. So
yeah, I see it. The best prices is Expect and BetClick who has him at 2, and GG Bet has him at 197, and the rest is 191 and Betsson Group 192. So pretty available price.
Yeah. All right.
Out of interest, have you ever used GG Bet, Jonas? Because they have loads of outlier prices, but
never.
No, I've heard they're a bit dodgy. So.
Oh, issues with cash outs and stuff?
Yeah. But that's just from reading things online. I don't know anyone that's actually bet with them yet.
Okay. Then I would probably stay clear.
I was going to ask you both if you guys had a look at the odds for the Weidman Hall fight, because I understand that Weidman's got a great wrestling game and he could implement that quite well, but I thought Uriah Hall might just come in as favourite here, because I could just easily see him catching Weidman. I mean, he has one of the most suspect chins out there, and as we know, Hall is very explosive in those early goings. So, I mean, even if you went a bit further and took Hall by KO, I'm looking at here, you can get him at 3.1 or 3.25 even in places. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts on the Weidman Hall fight.
I've never rated Weidman like that good. Uriah Hall, who did he fight this last fight again?
Anderson Silva.
Oh yeah, that fight Silva just looked done.
Yeah.
He's still explosive, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, you can see basically all of his last fights is won with KO, except Costa, where he got knocked out. Now he actually had a decision against Antonio Carlos Jr.
Yeah, I think if you're going to take him, you take him by the KO, because I think, obviously, like say, Weidman does have that grappling advantage, but he's started to get tired in fights, and like you say, his chin's not the best. So, I think you take that KO prop, then that's his most likely path to victory for Hall. So I don't mind that bet, and on the exchange, probably get a little bit better as well.
How likely do you think it is for that KO to happen in the first round, though?
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Because first round kick, I see a lot of bookmakers works. Okay, it's not that great. Uriah Hall first round KO 550.
You can get Uriah Hall to win in round 1 at 650 at William Hill.
Yeah,
5 at Paddy Power. Yeah, I just thought it was I was just a bit surprised to see the odds. I priced it up in my head as Hall being a favourite, but I guess I probably just underestimated Weidman's wrestling a touch. But I just think he's just. I mean, how many wrestlers has he faced? I mean, non-wrestlers, sorry, that he could potentially take down, and he just ends up getting caught by them. I think it's quite a big list that's growing. That you would have thought he'd be able to grind out a victory, but he ends up getting viciously knocked out. So
yeah, I think he'll definitely go for takedowns in this fight. I mean, he was looking all right in his fight against Jacare, and then he got knocked out really badly. He submitted Gastelum going back quite a long time ago, but he got rocked in that fight, so he does tend to get hit as well. And obviously fought Akhmedov in his last fight, and he was pretty gassed in the end by that. But it's a tough one really, because both of them kind of have they both seem to be kind of going downhill, and then they both kind of have liabilities like Hall. Sometimes just mentally doesn't seem to show up, and sometimes it seems when he gets taken down, he's kind of quite happy to accept being on the bottom. And then, like say with Weidman, he's got gas tank issues, and his chin's not what it was. So, I mean, what's fighting ends inside the distance, and that's could be another way of like looking to play it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll leave that one for now, and we can move on to the 3 title fights. Very, very exciting. I'll just get the odds up on my screen for the Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade fight. One moment. So you've got Valentina at about 125 everywhere, and you've got Jessica Andrade at a highest price of 4.5 on Bet365 as we speak. Shevchenko on a 6-fight win streak, with her last loss to Nunes in 2017, which was for the bantamweight title. Basically, I mean, in the UFC, she's only lost to Nunes, which has been twice, I believe, in the UFC. And Andrade, former strawweight champ, moving up to flyweight for her second fight in the division, coming off that first round KO of Katlyn Chookagian. And finally, I think just overall, it's fun to have someone very interesting for Shevchenko to fight, even though the odds don't really say that. Like in the, I mean, in her past like 3 or 4 fights, it's literally been, we're talking 1.1 and below odds for Shevchenko. So it's good to have someone a little bit more competitive. What are your initial thoughts on this one, Jonas?
I feel like there's Shevchenko and what's her name? Amanda Nunes. Like, you always get a bit tempted by looking at their opponents, then you watch the fight and you're like, yeah, fuck, they have no chance really. So I could be wrong here. Andrade has been on a win streak recently, but I mean, she's not been fighting anywhere near Shevchenko's class. She lost against Rose, knocked out Chookagian. I mean, it's just, she got knocked out after 42 seconds against Vale Zhang. I think fighting at one weight class higher, Shevchenko is going to bring the same power, if not higher. I think she's faster, or same speed probably. I think she's going to have the speed advantage in this fight. I think Shevchenko is going to dominate her and take her out before the 5 rounds is over. So I'm going to go for Shevchenko inside distance, which is something I rarely do for a woman's fight, unless it's someone with massive submission advantage. I would just go for an armbar if that was an opportunity. But in this fight, I think it's just going to be brutal, and I think it's going to end badly for Andrade.
How many times? I'm just going to look up now. How many times Andrade's been finished? I thought it was only maybe the Weili Zhang fight.
I think so. She might have been subbed earlier in her career, but I'm not sure about that. Like when she was fighting at the higher weight class.
Well, she's been finished by.
She's been Marion Renault.
Raquel. Yeah,
Raquel Pennington and Renault in 2015.
Yeah, so she certainly can be finished. I was going to ask Ryan, I looked back at that way the Katlyn Chookagian fight, and I was thinking that like I think Valentina will take something out of that fight, because although it ended in pretty vicious, body shot, I still think like Chookagian was having some decent success there, like keeping her at range and kind of picking her off, and we know that Shevchenko is like 10 times the strike, or maybe that's an exaggeration, but she's a lot more advanced in her striking abilities than Chookagian. So I was wondering if you took anything out of that and thought that she might have some success just trying to pick her off from range.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough fight for Andrade because she's at a massive reach disadvantage, and then she's fighting probably the best like female striker that we've ever seen. So she's, and in order to kind of get into that range as well, she normally kind of flurries forward with a few hooks. But Shevchenko, she's such a seasoned striker that it's very unlikely that she's going to get caught by that. And she's got like that piston left hand as well, that she's really good at just shooting down the middle when anyone comes into range. And even like Andrade just kind of adopted this like boxing heavy movement with her head side to side, and she was having some success against Rose with that. But then she does that with Shevchenko. Shevchenko's got just blistering kicks, and like if she can time it right, then she's going to knock her out. So like Jonas said, actually, I like Valentina inside the distance in this fight because if Andrade stays at distance, she's going to get picked off and kicked and teep kicked and just beaten up on the outside. So she's the one that's going to have to take the risks. And then when she does flurry forward, the reach, there's such a big disparity in the reach that she's going to get caught. And I think, she's going to look to grapple. I think that's going to be her game plan. But Shevchenko is a really good grappler as well. I mean, we've seen her fighting big, strong women like Juliana Pena's very big and strong. Nunes is very big and strong, and she kind of held her own against them. So don't really see Andrade having too much success there. I think money line, there's probably some value there as well. Like I got 1.29 on Betfair this morning. And then I think Valentina inside, which is probably the more kind of appealing bet at 2.3. That's also good value.
But it's pretty clear that it's going to be tough for Andrade to win on decision here. And the fact also that this is the first fight with audience back in after the COVID. It's 3 title fights. She's just going to have to close her eyes and go for some high variance, which easily can lead to a knockout. I don't think that the bigger cage is going to play in too much in this fight. But I see this finishing fast and vicious. And yeah.
Interesting. Because I mean, although Andrade has been, finished by Zhang, like she can take some punishment. That's the thing. Like we saw what happened with Joanna, but Joanna's a completely different fighter, isn't she? She's not the most powerful striker of all time. She's more of a technical, we saw what she did to so many people over those times. Like even like who was the girl that she fought right at the start? Was it Penne or?
Yeah, Jessica Penne. Yeah.
Mate, she just threw, like she didn't throw. She was throwing like as hard as she could, but Penne was just able to take like 50 to 1,000 of them, and just like literally just taking brain damage basically. So yeah, I mean it's actually a decent angle you guys have highlighted there. I can only get up odds for Bet365 at 2.3 for Shevchenko inside the distance. Have you guys seen anything better anywhere else, or maybe best fight odds would be a good outlet?
I see PokerStars has 2.4. And then someone just has either submission or KO. I would think KO was more likely, but I could be wrong also. But so I'm probably just going to try to go for inside distance wherever that's an opportunity.
Yeah, I'd cover the submission prop just in case she rocks her and gets on her neck.
Yeah.
I think Andrade is pretty durable in general, but I'll just cover yourself.
Yeah. I'm just having a look now to see if I can get any better results for Shevchenko inside the distance. No, I can't. I think 130 is the best, but you said PokerStars is at 140 or 240, sorry. So, all right, cool. Anything else we want to say about this one, or we're pretty happy with that one?
Yeah, I think I'm happy.
You're happy. All right. That's good, Jonas, as long as you're happy, mate. All right. Weili Zhang. What's the proper pronouncement of this name? Because pronouncement. I mean, I can't even pronounce whatever. Fucking. All right, we'll just go with Weili Zhang versus Rose Namajunas, and the odds for this one I will get up on the screen. 1.5 for Zhang, and you can get as high as 2.7 for Namajunas at Betway there, but most have around 2.65. Zhang coming off that incredible war with Joanna in what was a razor-close split decision, and this is only her second title defense. I don't think she fought at all, actually. I think she actually might have been the last crowded event, maybe. This is her second title defense against Rose, and Rose hasn't really fought much either in the last couple of years since that loss to Andrade for the title. but she returned impressively last year to beat Jessica Andrade. And yeah, I think overall this is just such an exciting fight, fellas. I really think this should be the main event. But yeah, how do you think this one will play out, Ryan?
Yeah, so I think out of the 3 title fights, like you say, this is the most exciting one. And initially, I thought the odds were a little bit too wide when I looked at this. Like Rose is really light on her feet. She's got really sharp boxing. She's got that really nice jab and like in and out movement, and we've seen her use it very successfully, like against Andrade. Andrade at least in the first 2 rounds, had a lot of trouble, tracking her down. But I think Vella Zhang is a little bit more explosive, and she's got more of a dynamic game as well. She's got a good kicking game. And one thing I noticed is that Rose is like very heavy on that front foot as well, and that's part of why she's got a really nice jab is that reliance on the front foot. But Weili Zhang's got really good a really good right low kick, which Joanna was using in their second fight towards the end, and that kind of won her a few rounds. And even Andrade used that in the second fight as well, and was doing it quite successfully. So that's kind of a concern for me. And she also slows down a little bit as well in 5-round fights. And in the last fight against Andrade, she was slowing down in that 3rd round, and Andrade took over and won that quite comfortably as well. So that's something that is another concern. And then the third kind of concern again that I noticed was that she doesn't wear damage too well. Like if you go and watch that Andrade fight, she took some shots in that fight, and her face was a mess. And if you kind of just look at her facial structure in general, she has got quite like thin sunken cheeks, and she's very pale skinned, and fighters like that do tend to wear damage, unfortunately. And as
pale
we saw,
fighters just suck, eh?
Well, yeah,
you need to.
We seem to we do cut a little bit easier, or at least we seem to. But yeah, and I think those 3 concerns are what put me off backing her, because, like I say, initially I thought the odds were a bit too wide, but when I kind of dug into it a little bit deeper, that kind of stood out to me. So I really struggle with this one.
Yeah. What about you, Jonas?
My instincts is telling me that Rose is not going to be able to withstand Zhang's damage. She showed in the fight against Joanna, she can do some crazy damage. Joanna got the sick chin to be able to survive that. I think she's just going to dominate her, and I'm going to go for just a KO for Zhang this time. And 3.5 to 4 in odds seems just too tempting.
Yeah, I can get those markets up for you guys now. So Zhang by KO is, Odds Checker's not doing a great job today. Oh, yeah, but 3.4, 3.5, something like that. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I was the exact same as you, Ryan. I looked at the odds for the first time yesterday, and I was like, that just seems way too big. But then I listened to a few other podcasts about, how it might go ahead, and I guess you would think that most of the fight will stay on the feet, and then I think a lot of people are kind of thinking maybe Rose's biggest chance is if they get into maybe a bit of a scramble and she can make it a grappling match. But do you guys kind of think that it'll just stay on the feet for the majority of the fight?
I think it's gonna get they're gonna bite on their mouth guard and just exchange some powerful blows, and I don't think Rose is gonna come out winning of those.
Yeah, I think Zhang's the kind of more powerful athlete as well. She looks like she's the stronger of the two, so yeah, it'll be her that will probably look for takedowns if it is. But Rose does have a good grappling game, and she does go for submissions. She was defending against Andrade, she kept going for that Kimura. Obviously, but she got dumped on the head in the first fight, and then in the second fight, she didn't really go for that. But I think if Rose is losing the fight and she needs to initiate the grappling, I think she'll have a harder time doing it than if Zhang wanted to do it. But Zhang will probably be quite happy to stand and strike, I would imagine.
And I get the feeling that she's the quintessential fighter that's just dedicated to fighting, the fame and this kind of stuff it's not going to distract her. So she hasn't been fighting for a year, and I feel like she's been underground in some basement, just like getting way better.
She's been throwing like leg kicks against those metal posts and just like building up her leg. I think she's gonna be just another animal that is very improved when she gets out there.
Because she hasn't had that many fights, has she? Like I feel like she's still like, although she's champion already, like this we'll see the best version of her on the weekend. So yeah, I can definitely lean towards what you guys are saying there. Yeah, anything else you guys wanted to say on this one, or are we pretty comfortable with taking Zhang by KO at about 3.4, 3.5?
As comfortable as you can get at those prices. It's like, of course, if it was more of a lock, it would be less than 2 in odds, but I like those prices, and looking forward just to confirming my assumptions.
I think another option as well would be like, if you're going to look at it in play, would be like Rose is a fast starter, and she tends to have like a really good first round, and that's when she's the most mobile as well. So I think that she could take the first round, and you might get like 1.8 or something like that on Zhang. So that might be worth looking at, just because Rose has that tendency to fade, and then obviously that leg kick's also going to be there throughout the fight. So that will be something that I'll be looking at as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I think you both agreed on the first two fights, so this is very interesting, and I feel like they were at least the Rose fight was the most contentious fight out of all of them. And maybe we'll all agree on the outcome of this one. Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman for the welterweight title. The odds are very, very short on Usman, as you can imagine. 1.25 you can get at most places, and you can get as high as 4.5, maybe a little bit more on the exchanges for Jorge Masvidal. So this will be Usman's fourth title defense after defending against Covington, Masvidal earlier, and also Gilbert Burns. And for Masvidal, he was on quite the tear until losing to Usman just under a year ago, and he hasn't fought since. So it might surprise you in saying that Usman basically shut out Masvidal very easily, but of course he just as I was about to give my big take, my bloody camera turns off. How bad's that? I can't believe this bloke's getting a title shot. Basically, it just makes me so I actually get angry. It's pathetic. Like, I actually get angry that this guy's getting a title shot. I think if I was because it's on short notice, and Leon Edwards was all ready to, like, they could have given the fight to Leon Edwards, and I just think that would have been so much more interesting. But star power does things, doesn't it?
I mean, it's gonna be in Florida, and he's a Florida kid, right?
I guess.
He's like a big, like, he's been fighting on the streets of Miami since he was like, how old? Like a little kid. And I think that's also has a play to it, and the reason why they sold out like this. So, but as for the fight, I honestly, I hope that Masvidal is going to knock him out. He got a tiny bit of equity. The price is not appealing. I hope for it. I think the best bet of this fight is probably going to be Usman decision. It could also be Usman in round 3 or round 4 or 5, which is very high, but it can just wear him out. And, basically Masvidal just doesn't have anything left when it comes to those rounds. Those prices are going to be like in the 20s and 30s for a win in those rounds. But again, could be slight value. I don't know. What do you think, Ryan?
No, I've got the same thing wrote down. I've got Usman decision at 2 as kind of the best bet I see. Like, I mean, Usman wanted this fight, and he kind of tried to sell it as saying, like, he wants to get the finish in this fight, and he wants to finish this guy. He hates Masvidal and all this. And that's kind of how he's kind of trying to sell the fight. But at the end of the day, we know how Usman fights. He's very intelligent. He's going to go to his strength, and he's going to go to Masvidal's weakness. And we've seen the fight already, so we know that Usman will be able to control him against the fence when he wants to. I think Masvidal obviously will have a better gas tank in this fight, but I don't think he'll have the strength to fend off Usman. And something else, like Usman for that fight was preparing for Burns as well, so he was concentrating a lot more on his striking. Whereas this fight, he knows he's had a full camp to train for Masvidal, and he knows what his weaknesses are, and he knows where he's going to excel. So I just think we see a similar fight, to be honest, unless Masvidal can land something huge. I think that Usman's just going to implement the same game plan, beat him up against the fence, and we'll see a repeat.
And I mean, I must say, I'm quite impressed with Usman's chin also. Like, can you mention another fighter who wouldn't be knocked out by Burns in that fight?
No, I mean, he's got a very, very good chin, hasn't he?
To be able to come back from that, and I don't know. It's hard to see Masvidal finishing him, but it's going to be his only chance to winning the fight. So he's going to have to do something spectacular, I guess.
And Masvidal himself is very durable as well. Like, I don't think he's ever been finished in the UFC. I mean, he's had some stoppages in his earlier career, but generally, he's a very durable. He's a very tenacious guy himself, and he's not the type of guy that's gonna quit either. So, I think there's a decent amount of value in that.
I get the feeling that the crowd is going to be very disappointed by the outcome of this one. So you mentioned 2-in odds for Usman's decision, or one of you did.
I saw it on Betfair. That's where I got it anyway.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it looks like you can't get anything better than 1.83 at the moment. I can have a quick look at best fight odds to see if there's anything.
Yeah, you can get 191 on PokerStars.
That's good. Good price.
Always rely on PokerStars. It's incredible. I'm just having a look. Usman by decision. Yeah, I'm getting American odds here, so I'm not the greatest, but I'm seeing minus 125 is the best, which I think
that's 180.
Yeah. So, would you guys go lower, or would you take as low as 1.83 or 1.8?
I'd still take that. I think there's still some value. I'd probably go as low as 1.75. Wouldn't want too much lower than that. But...
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I mean, there's just there's not much to go through here, is there? It's kind of just you just feel like it's going to go the exact same as the last fight. So, I mean, do you think Jorge's chances are better this fight than last fight because he's had a bit more time to prepare and he's seen what he has to offer over 5 rounds already? Like, I mean, I'd love to have seen the odds last. I think the odds last time were even shorter on Masvidal. So, do you guys think he's got a better
We did
chance?
a pod, didn't we? I think because we bet Usman at 1.44 or something like that.
Mate, I bet Usman at 1.35 with 2 rounds left. I couldn't believe it.
So it's interesting that Masvidal's got a full camp now, but his odds are bigger. But I suppose it's because kind of we've seen the first fight already, so he probably does have a better chance than in the first fight. But if you're going to play him, you might as well play the KO prop because I just don't really see him ever. I mean, obviously, he could win a decision, but I think it's a very low probability of happening.
Yeah. All right, terrific, gents. It seems like we're kind of all on the same page with all of the bets today. So, little bit of confirmation bias from everyone. I love that. Let's get along to our best bets of the weekend then. Ryan, do you want to kick us off, mate? What's your favourite?
So I like that Usman bet. I think that's the kind of standout bet for me this weekend.
All right, Usman by decision at 1.83 at Paddy Power. That's what I'm saying is the best you can get at the moment. And Jonas, mate, what have you got?
Shevchenko inside distance. I think 2.3 is very good for that, and I don't see Andrade lasting 5 rounds against the Shevchenko.
All right, cool. I was going to give out I don't even know what I kind of just like a little bit of everything this weekend. So my best bet's just everything we've talked about today, basically. So there you go.
Put him in an accumulator.
Don't you worry, mate. Don't you worry. That's the best way to do it, I reckon. All right, you can find these terrific MMA analysts at smartsportstrader.com and SM Sports Trader on Twitter, and Jonas, how do you want to pronounce it? Gel at Twitter.
Gel.
Gel. Jonas Gel.
Just like, the thing you put in your hair.
Yeah, except with a random J. Actually, someone was asking me the other day how to pronounce your name. Do you like to be called Jonas or Jonas?
I don't care. Like, when I speak to Norwegians, they say Jonas. When I speak to English people, they say Jonas. So, whatever.
All right. Sorry, mate. Just didn't want to offend you.